مضيق خلقك، الحمد لله ما حد بياخذ منك رزقك، هدي وارتاح تابر واطمح من حقك، بس بلاش العين، لا 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 ما تسوى الدنيا مضيق خلقك، الحمد لله ما حد بياخذ منك رزقك، هدي وارتاح تابر واطمح من حقك، بس بلاش.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All thanks and praises are due to Allah, by whose grace all things are made possible. A very warm and special welcome to our viewers at home from this majestic, beautiful, exquisite place in the Franschhoek Valley here in the Western Cape, in a place called Dawn Mountains. And with me in studio today are persons responsible for driving Dawn Mountains. I hope to hear from them with regards to the history as to how we've come to be here, where we are at, and then quite honestly, the way forward. So I want to introduce first Brother Mahmoud Surti, and then also Shu'aib Manjara. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Brother Mahmoud, Dawn Mountains. And I know, alhamdulillah, you're intrinsically involved in terms of ownership and perhaps even in vision. But if you don't mind, can you share with us some of the history of this beautiful and really exquisite venue?
Well, there is no really history. I was living in Australia for 16 years, and 8 years ago Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought me back. I had no intentions of coming back.
Really? So if you don't mind, when you say you were living there, so obviously clearly you are South African, you then spent some time in Australia, and you had no intention, but Allah's will that you came. So what brought you to Franschhoek Valley?
Well, I was actually looking for a farm to, I do a lot of horse riding, and I wanted to breed Egyptian horses, and I do a lot of riding, so I'm looking for a farm for my horses, and that's how I ended up here.
Sorry, this is fascinating. Shu'aib, if you don't mind, I'll come to you in a second, really, right? So here's the person, and the background, you're from Newcastle originally.
Newcastle, okay. And I'm a born
so a
farmer as
Newcastle
well.
farmer who loves riding horses, ends up in Australia, and then comes to the magnificent Franschhoek Valley to us here in the Western Cape. I mean, really one of the gems here for us. And he's looking to ride his horses and a place to breed and develop horses, yes? Yes. And ends up at Dawn Mountains.
Well, actually, I bought a farm 4 years ago across the road.
Yes.
It's called Dragensach.
Okay.
And then this property came up for sale. And alhamdulillah, my sons and I are very dawah focused. And we acquired this property mainly for dawah.
Okay. Perhaps at this point I can bring in Shu'aib, who I know is a spokesperson for the family and indeed for Dawn Mountains. Shu'aib Manjara, in terms of the vision, Dawn Mountains, what's the plan? What do you see going forward?
So if you look at Dawn Mountains, it's an ideal location. It's nestled in a little hamlet called Simondium, between Franschhoek, Paarl and Stellenbosch. Yes. And surrounded by the majestic mountains of the Helderberg and the Franschhoek Mountains. And it's a place where, I mean, if you look just a few kilometers down the road, you've got Babylon's Toren, which is a phenomenal farm. So it's an ideal location, that it's near enough to the city, but far enough. Yes. It's a retreat in a sense. So the vision is to create an environment for people to come here and enjoy the spiritual beauty of nature, to enjoy a spirituality in terms of this venue we're sitting in, which is a Jamaat Khana, which is a place of prayer. Sure. To have a venue here where people could have their weddings in a halal setting. Yes. And to create synergies with organizations like Jamiat al-Qura, sure, and other community organizations who want to use the space for da'wah, for training, for youth camps. So there's a vision in terms of a service to the community, but also a venue for people to use whenever they want to. Sure. And it's got accommodation here, so people can come and spend a weekend here, or if you've got a camp, you can accommodate people.
In fact, if you don't mind, I was just going to go back to Mahmoud and ask, so at present, Mahmoud, I mean, what Shu'aib is speaking about, really Allah reward you and make that vision a possibility, inshallah. At present, what happens at Dawn Mountains? Is it an active farm still?
It is an active,
a working farm?
It is a working farm. Okay. We have 5,000 guava trees.
Okay.
We supply the likes of Woolies, Spar, Pick and Pay. And this year, alhamdulillah, our guavas were sold at Marks and Spence in London through the Woolies chain. Wow. So there must be something we're doing right on the farming side.
Absolutely. I hope we get to try some of them just now, Shu'aib. That's an aside.
You missed the boat. It's out of season.
It's not, golf season's finished?
No, it's finished.
I probably had them at Woolies, they were
Yes, and we also have on the other farm 500 olive trees.
Okay.
So down the track we're going to bottle our own oil under the Don
So
Mountain's
when
name.
Shoaib is busy telling us about the accommodation, is that available or is that in the process?
Yes, we have on site a house that sleeps 18 people.
Okay.
So we reserve that for our guests that hire the venue for conferences or weddings.
Sure.
And down the track, inshallah, we should have about 25 rooms.
No, inshallah.
That's the plan.
So, in a sense, Shoaib, coming back to you, you speak about the sense of retreat, and it is that. You know, it's so very easy to be thinking of retreat as in only spiritual retreats, and, you know, I say this with respect, but engaged in dhikr all the time. But by simply being here, that is the retreat in a sense as well. Surrounded by the beauty, to hear the sense of water, birds chirping in the trees. You can hear the silence, if there is such a thing. I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. I want to, though, pick up when you speak about the synergy between organizations, and perhaps you mentioned JEQ, Jamiatul Qura. What is all of that about, and how do you see Dawn Mountains playing a role in that?
So there's a couple of things. So Jamiatul Qura approached Dawn Mountains to host an event.
Sure.
So in that sense, you know, Dawn Mountains has availed its facilities. Sure. So Jamiatul Qura to host an event on the evening of the 9th of December, I think.
I think it's the 7th.
Or the 7th of December. So that's the beginning of hopefully a longer relationship.
Oh, sure.
But there's also multiple phases. So, you know, Mahmoud Surzi's spoken about his farm across, which is Drakhensach,
Sure.
which is equally as beautiful. And it's got enough space as well. And his idea is to build a training center,
Yes.
a training facility for youth to come and have training camps and retreats. So in that sense, you know, Jamiatul Qura is probably the beginning as a venue. So the one service you provide is to provide a venue. Sure. for non-profit organizations. Yes. But beyond that, we are probably looking at developing a training center here, which people could use on a more regular basis. A camping site, which our kids would, you know, which we will avail to children. Sure. There's hikes in these mountains. So if you go behind the mountains, there's beautiful hikes. And so you could have multifaceted youth camps, you know, and expose our youth to all kinds of different skills.
Absolutely.
So in that sense, it's got kind of a huge potential to kind of offer community organizations.
Sure. And so clearly this is going to be a place that goes beyond simply a beautiful venue, as it were.
That's right.
So that whether it's for conference or, as Mahmoud Bhai says correctly, in terms of weddings, we're actually speaking about empowering. Yeah. And this would be to persons irrespective, obviously, of race, color, and creed,
absolutely.
and religion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So anybody who does good,
yes,
you know, this place would be available.
Good.
Because, you know, in terms of our philosophy, it's about people who do good for the community.
Yes.
We do good for them.
Absolutely.
So there is an income stream here. And, you know, the farm and the venue for weddings is an income stream for Dawn Mountains, but also giving that income, some of that income back, or a significant part of that income back to the community.
Sure. So if I can just, you know, really, Shoaib, I can't stress, and I hope our camera persons will be able to pan across and try and capture the beauty. But to be here is something on its own. But by the same token, you know, one cannot be here in a setting like this and the scope of your land, Mahmoud, and not be thinking in terms of the financial responsibility. And I'm glad you speak about the income stream. But the type of empowerment you're speaking about, Shoaib, is not only then going to be for the financial elite, surely. That's just not part of the philosophy.
No. So it's, I mean, whichever community. So hopefully, I mean, youth camps would be directed at impoverished communities, yes, you know, not elite communities. So it's also providing employment.
Yes.
So, I mean, if you go further down, there's a restauranting bulk,
yes,
which we should provide employment to people. But certainly it's not catering for the elite. Okay. So you know, I mean, the youth camps hopefully would be for underprivileged communities. The retreats and the training venue would be available to non-governmental organizations who service impoverished communities. Yes. So certainly it's not directed at the Muslim community alone.
Excellent.
And it's not directed at the elite alone. Yes. It's meant to be an inclusive venue, sure, that's available to everyone.
Alhamdulillah, that's wonderful. If you don't mind me asking you, Mahmoud, in terms of this particular vision, I mean, I understand the acquisition of Dawn Mountains and your place across the road, But in terms of implementing the vision, the sense of da'wah, the sense of empowerment, if you don't mind me asking, has that always been part of where you were at, or has that come along now that you've acquired this beautiful place?
No, from my youth, and I must thank my elders and Allah grant them Jannah for those. From a very young age, they schooled me and took me into the masjid in Newcastle, and I was on the executive, and that's how I got involved in Islam and community and doing community work. I was also a trustee at the mosque in Brisbane.
Okay.
So it's part and parcel of my DNA.
Okay, for sure.
So it's nothing new. It's nothing new.
Okay.
So I'm very dawah focused, not only to Muslims but to humanity.
Because it's exciting, really, and you know, one can only commend you.
So Ashraf, can I just add one thing?
Please,
So,
sure.
so if you look at between Franschhoek and Paarl, there's no musalla. So this musalla will be open to the public.
Sure.
So people who are driving past and want to come and perform their salah here, it will be available for them. So that's one of the functions, yeah.
We're going to have to go for an ad break. I can't wait to come back and, you know, speak to you gentlemen again about the beautiful Dawn Mountains, where we find ourselves here today, their relationships with the NGOs and other community organizations that seek to do good. And quite honestly, the sincerity on their part to, in a sense, open their doors, to put out their hand in partnership and to assist those who would try to empower others. And so we come back after the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
لا 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 ما تسوى الدنيا تضيق خلقك الحمد لله